to strap in and get ready. The leaders in NRL SuperCoach are incoming. Bringing you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and climb up the rankings. You're now listening to the Insight NRL Show with your hosts, Brain, Metrics, and Whisperer.
G'day guys, we are here as always on Tuesday night, about 4.5 hours after chaos from TLT to answer the Patreon subscriber questions, and we've got some crackers tonight. We've got some very specific ones, but also some quite broad ones that are going to help you out there. Get your team sorted ahead of round 3. Josh, how you going, mate? How you feeling?
Good, mate, good. Yeah, team list was interesting, but, green arrows in all 3 formats this week, so mood on the up. Tigers got the win. It's all looking good until... Saturday or Sunday when they eventually lose, and mental health back down the drain. But mate, going well. Team lists weren't too bad, thankfully. Couple of inactive players and a couple of blue dots, but apart from that, mate, full strength side this week for me, which is quite nice.
Nice, very good. I mean, obviously we've all copped Hubner. He'll be out for 2 weeks, but gives us a bit of a loop option if you don't have any other DNPs or you don't have a Dragons player in your team on the bye. That's always an option too. I think for the most part we've hopefully got Hamish Stewart there that can play that role too. So, but for the most part, I feel like we've dodged a couple of bullets. So that's handy. Or the trades that we were potentially looking at are now much clearer with a couple of guys like Duffy being out of the team, etc. So, mate, let's tackle these questions, guys. Before we do, this one will obviously be coming out later. You get this exclusive as a Patreon subscriber, but for everybody watching on delay, if you want to get your questions answered, you can join the Patreon. It is less than $10 a month to get all your questions answered, get all the access to all of the team mail and all of the articles that we write within the Patreon. But more importantly, you get access to the WhatsApp chat, which is where I think all the value lies in talking with like-minded SuperCoach people like yourself to get your questions answered and get access to us. So, Josh, let's rip in, mate. We've got the first one here from Henry. Thoughts on Preston, Hopgood, and Gashevsky out for Haas, Tino, and Arthurs. I think we're going to get a lot of these questions tonight on, first of all, what do I do with my boost? But secondly, what do you think of these players? I think what we'll do is we'll probably just try to give one blanket answer for the players that we think about. And then obviously our answers are going to get a little bit quicker as we go through this episode because there are a few questions like this.
Yeah, I mean... these really personal questions, chuck it in the WhatsApp. We're more than happy to answer them. But with these Patreon Q&As, let's try and keep them a little bit more broad so everyone can get an idea. Like, I guess we could rephrase this of like, what do we think of Preston, Hopgood, and Goss just in general? And it probably gives people a better idea that have similar thoughts. I never like telling people what to do, make trades, but I like giving thoughts on players. So Preston, I'm absolutely fine holding. 66 last week, so what's that? 49 BP. We see Kikau go down, we see Burton go down. We're probably going to see more right side attack, especially with Sexton being in the primary half. I'm very happy to give him as long as he needs. It's not the pressing issue. I think his BE is something like 80, which is not like great, but it's not the end of the world. Hopgood, mate, I'm on very thin ice. I don't know about you. He has to survive one more week for me, but after that, I'm very keen to probably part ways with old Jermaine.
Could be Hop gone. Could be Hop gone soon. Yeah, he's got one more week in my team to prove to me and the board why he should stay at Brain Ball. So he's on thin ice. Absolutely. I think it's more so just because. I don't
know if he's got one more week. I think he could put up 110. And I think my executives are still probably tearing up the contract next week.
I've got enough cash in the bank, I think, with my trades this week, and I'll talk about them in WhatsApp. But I've got enough cash in the bank, nearly 300K next week. So I could potentially keep a Hopgood and make a Naf White up to Tino move work next week with the other trades that I'm already planning. So that's maybe I'm a little bit too stubborn on Hopgood, knowing that, I've been super high on him, and we've seen, 2 poor games from a bad team, but we've also got 2 years of prior SuperCoach gun status from Hopgood. So, I don't want it to be a ponger of last year where we got off because things looked slow and Knights looked shit, and then he, blew us up. So, my thoughts on these trades are great. I think you can probably wait a week on Tino, personally. I think I'd probably rather, you're going to Haas, Tino, and Arthurs is a great option. I'd probably be inclined to even look at potentially getting off maybe you've got a Duffy there. You could go to Starling. I think we're going to get a lot of questions tonight about Starling, Josh, as well this week. Starling versus Humphreys and what we do with Purdue and all of that. So I don't know. What do you think? Would you wait on Tino a week, or are you happy to go early?
I feel like we could just do we can just do Goss and Hopgood to Arthurs and Tino, maybe. I think the money works there because there's only about 70k difference between Preston and Tino. So, I mean, that's probably where I'd go. If you need the money, then I'm sure there's other ways we can downgrade. But yeah, I'm pretty keen to hold Preston. I'm pretty keen to wait on Tino. It's not the end of the world, but there's other guys that are probably more priority this week that are on the bubble that we should be looking at. But yeah, Starling's definitely one of them. The old hook one, start the season.
What a gun. Love him. He's been fantastic. I've got him in fantasy and dream team, and unfortunately skipped out on having him in my SuperCoach team, but I've got Break Bravery, so I'm not overly upset about it. Let's move on. Hobbsy's next. Is Duffy to Humphreys a wasted trade given the draw of the Rabbitohs is the Sharks into the Panthers the next fortnight? I mean, you're buying him for the cash, aren't you? Really, more than having a playable halfback, considering you probably have Cleary or Nico, hopefully.
Can we not just do, I mean, I'm not sure how much money's in the bank, but can we not just do Duffy to Starling?
And then Sandon down. Just depends where you have Sandon Smith, I guess.
I mean, if Sandon Smith's, if Sandon Smith your halfback one, it'd have to be in this instance.
You're in all sorts.
Well, it'd be this. Otherwise, yeah, it's Sandon Smith halfback one, Duffy halfback two.
Yeah, shit.
So, like, surely it's just this is just Cleary and Duffy. And you just go Duffy to Starling, or even if you don't have the money, I'd rather Duffy to Memezelis than Humphreys. And they're the same price, Duffy and Memezelis and Humphreys. I don't think people are talking about that. People aren't talking about Memezelis. I don't really understand why. I much prefer him over Humphreys long term. Yeah,
I mean, the role's much more solid because, if Dodd by some miracle does come back into this team, he obviously just slots back into the 14 role, and Memezelis plays the starting hooker role, which probably dilutes both of their scoring. Really, it's not ideal. But do you see Dodd coming back into this team?
No, not a chance. I mean, maybe when they get humped for the next month because the draw's pretty grim, but no, like I don't. He played pretty iffy in Reggie's. Like,
I think the one thing we also have to consider.
Shout out to Bane Winnett in our Discord. What's that? But Wayne seems like a very stubborn coach. I don't think they're picking to anytime soon.
Yeah, I probably tend to agree. Also, we need to remember that when Latrell comes back, if he's on track for round 4, 5, 6 to come back, Humphreys loses the goal kicking. So that's another thing you probably need to consider there. Amy has a bit of a banger question here. This one's a tough one, but I don't have Toya, Tamale, Sandon, or Humphreys, which is a tough start. Was going to go and do Hopgood to Haas through Jules, Stretch, which is Campbell Graham, to Toya and Tamale. I could then do Duffy to Hump or Sandon, or Purdue to another center wing. So I guess the question comes down to, do you move on Duffy or Purdue as your final trade?
Yuck. It's just yuck that you haven't started with any of those guys. I'm just looking at Payne Haas's break even and can we fade? And it's 9. I didn't realize it was that low. So probably not.
You're going to be paying an extra at least 100k for him in 2 rounds, I think.
Can we get the question back up?
Sorry.
Sort of reference it.
There's a bit going on.
I don't have Toya, Tamale, Sandon, or Humphreys, and you don't have Haas. I think far out. You're going to have to drop one because I don't think you can go without Haas. So you're going to have, and Humphreys, I've already said that we can punt him. So we have to go without Toya, Tamale, or Sandon. Wow. All right. I think you've got to go with Toya because he's bottom dollar. Probably has the best job security out of all 3 of those. I guess Toya and Sandon. I think maybe just let Tamale go through to the keeper.
I think we've got enough center wings or enough cheapies across the board, maybe, that you're just going to have to sacrifice one. But honestly, there's another question a little bit later around Tamale and comparing him to 2024 Kale Iro if everything goes right. And honestly, I can probably get on board with that take.
I don't know if I can get on board with that. I mean, we saw
he's gone back-to-back 60s.
Yeah, but he fell over the line to get 60 last game.
Kale Iro fell over the line plenty last year.
Yeah, but Kale Iro is also putting up 50 VP these days. I mean, to answer this question for Amy, I'm taking Toya, Sandon, and Haas, and then make it work however you can, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to split those three cheapies are. But I think, yeah, you probably need to follow the pack for the most part on Toya and Sandon Smith. Could hurt you a lot more, I think, than Tamale, considering he's probably the least owned. He would be the least owned out of those three by a fair margin. So, yeah, that's fair. Michael's got the next one. I have Purdue, Duffy, Hosking, and Turbo. Who are the priority trade-outs and replacements? We'll probably answer this first. Who are you trading out if you're boosting? Because Michael is boosting. You've got to pick one that you've got to keep.
I'm getting rinsed on Twitter because I'm very in the family. I mean, I get rinsed on Twitter every day, but I'm especially getting rinsed today because I'm very much president of the Sell Turbo camp. Mm-hmm. I'm terrified, man. Like, remember last year when Manly were like, no, you're sweet. And he had that like hip flexor, and then it was the back, and then it was like the groin, and he was out for fucking 7 weeks.
Yeah, he missed 5 weeks with a groin injury off the back of that back and hammy injury as well. So
I get he's got Parramatta next week, but like,
I'll be fucking shitting my pants not owning him.
No, I'm terrified. Thankfully, I'm getting Cleary next week to try and cover the wound. But like, it's I don't know, man. Like, 880K for a guy that's like maybe played this week, maybe doesn't, and if he does play this week, like, what happens if he gets tightness in the 35th minute? You know?
My concern is that I thought we were at least going to make it through to round 5 before we were having this conversation about Turbo. We're having it in round 3. Man. He got through 120 minutes of football before he's pinged a hammy. And this is his 7th hammy issue. It's come back clean. The scans have come back clean. So like that's positive. But in saying that, there's got to be something going on there. If it might be sciatic nerve in his back. I listened to Physio's podcast, The Magic Sponge. And if you want to get a good insight into how you should feel about these players, that's the podcast to listen to. We're not injury specialists or physios by any means, but he was concerned. And when physio's usually glass half full kind of guy on injuries, he's like, yeah, you know what? Like, it's not going to be that bad or whatever. And if the mechanism isn't, overly concerning, he'll back Turbo in to have a big game. And he's concerned about Turbo basically listening to that podcast. So
my concern is if Turbo's got 3 tries, he's on 80, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if they're up 28, 30 at halftime, and he goes, you know what? It's a little bit tight. All right, well, we'll just sit here. We're up by 30 points. And like 80 points is fantastic, but I don't want to be fucking relying on my near 900K asset to be playing half a game, basically. And I guess I'm more negative than Physio because I guess we have SuperCoach tied to this, and we look at players not as humans. We look at them more as just numbers, which is a really shit thing to do. But when you're talking fantasy, you sort of have to. I don't want a guy with 6 confirmed hamstring issues, potentially now a 7th, having a flare up so early, playing the last game of the round as well. If he was playing Friday, I'd be more inclined to probably hold. But like, mate, we're getting squeaky bum time at 3:00 on Sunday. Just refreshing the page to see if like he's playing or not. And what do you do? Like imagine the head noise for some punters out there. If they're sitting on like 1,000 points heading into Sunday, 900 points heading into Sunday, and Turbo's their captain, and it's like, oh, he's out. Like, it's just so much head noise I don't want to put up with. Like, yeah, it's gonna suck not owning him, but I'm hedging my bets by buying Cleary next week. I'm pretty keen on the Sell Turbo. I know it might be unpopular, but that's just me. What are you thinking?
I'm in the same camp. I'm worried. And look, you know what? You've got to look at what is the percentage play in this scenario. Like, sadly, the percentage play is that over the next 4 weeks, there is every chance Turbo could cop a soft tissue injury. Especially when we start to see niggles pop up really early in the season. We know that it's only the ticking time bomb before something happens. Now, obviously, something might not happen and we might end up jumping off and he ends up playing incredible football over the next 4 to 8 weeks and hurts us. And there's every chance of that happening. But for me, the percentage play, I think, is to back in the fact that his performance will come down. And we remember last year when he had that back issue, then he had that hamstring issue. Then I think there was a groin issue in there somewhere before then there was a compensation for then doing the hammy. So like it's like the start of the process now for Turbo to get that niggle. For me, at 892K, I don't want a guy with a niggle that has an injury history in my team. And the problem becomes, Josh, who do we even fucking go to this week? Because everyone wants double fullback gun, right? And they're probably looking at getting Yongi this week, maybe. Is there actually, I probably shouldn't even ask you this, but there is a validity where you can actually just go one fullback gun, Yongi, and another position then in preparation for next week's trades too, right?
Yeah, I put this on Twitter the other day. It's very funny. 6 weeks ago, I had my pitchfork in the ground and was just like, it's 3-gun fullback or it's nothing. And now we get to the start of round 3, and I have Tom Starling as my flex, and I have Isaiah Yongi as my fullback too. It's funny how the narrative shifts. I think for the similar money, people are talking about upside and stuff like that. Like, you don't need 40,000 captain options every week. You need KP, you need Cleary, and then maybe one other, a gun center wing, or like, a gun hooker. Sorry, only just Harry Grant, or like a safe front row forward. For the same money, you can get Payne Haas and Tino for like Turbo and like a Jack Howarth or like a Skelton. And I know who I probably want long term. I know who's going to cause me the least amount of head noise, who's going to cause me the least amount of panic. And if I've got guys to cover captaincy, which I do, we've spoken about it at length about this KP into Walsh sweepstakes. Like, do you need Turbo for captaincy? Because I don't want him as a 900k asset. I want him as a captain. It's the old FPL analogy. It's like, you don't pay FPL budget's 100 million. Most sellers normally about 13, 14 million. You don't pay 13, 14% of your budget to not captain these guys. If you've got Nico, you've got Cleary, you've got a KP, you've got Reece Walsh, you've got, even like a strike 2RF, like, you've probably got enough orange armband options that you can forego Turbo. And it's going to suck if he scores 110. I get that. But can you find 30 points of value by spending the money elsewhere? I think you can. And I'm not looking at captain.
Yeah.
Like, even like Manly can come out and they can show me the scans, and the world's best doctor can say, you know what, he's fine, he's perfect. I'm just so scared. Like, and I'm probably never going to captain him in between now and like round 10. So why am I holding him?
I agree. I'd never captain him from here off the back of this. Not a chance.
That probably goes into this question by Lockie Patterson as well. Who's the player that can punish you the most by fading them? It's probably Turbo, but and Cleary. And I can speak from Cleary firsthand. It's a very nervous watch week in, week out.
It's a tough watch. You know what? I probably never ever, or not. No, sorry, that's a lie. I reckon there would be less than 5 games over the last 3 seasons that I've faded Cleary. I reckon I've just bought him ASAP as soon as he's been available over the last 3 seasons. So injuries hurt me.
Hasn't been fun. It's been a very stressful watch. I keep saying that I think I've won, but it's not like a comprehensive victory. It's very much an England Test cricket moral victory for me.
Yeah, good analogy. So to answer Michael's question, Purdue, Duffy, Hosking, and Turbo, who are the priority trade outs? I think Turbo just because he's so much money. I think Hosking needs to go.
I don't own Purdue. What's his break even?
Oh, like fuck all, like 14 or something. It's pretty low.
You hold him.
I reckon it's just Duffy, Hosking, because they're both not playing, and you want to make some cash and get Turbo out. Like,
all it takes, like Purdue with a 17 break even, if he falls over the line and gets a 50, you're making 30k there, which is handy.
At the price, yeah. He doesn't have to do much to make money. So that probably seems like the play. I've got to hold Purdue this week, I think, now that Duffy's out. BTs wants to know Turbo to Pappy, Luai to Arthurs, and either upgrade Goz or Kobe. So, sorry, I fucked up. Kobe. No, I messed up this question. Goz or Kobe.
Kobe sucks.
Yeah, so it's either Goz or Kobe to Haas. Who's going?
So, Turbo to Pappy,
Luai
to Arthurs, and either upgrade Goss or Kobe to Haas. Thoughts?
Yes. Who goes, Kobe or Goz? Probably Goz.
Hang on, let's have a look. Kobe, and these Patreon ones are very much unstructured. I hope people know that. Kobe is sitting with a break even of 13. I probably don't even need to look at Gosevsky. If Kobe's got a 13 break even, I'm just holding
from
him.
Memory.
Minus 10. I'm still holding Kobe.
I think so as well.
Like, I know that he's been named to start, but like, I'm not filled with confidence when Pete Bedell is tweeting at 12 o'clock saying that Goz is training with Spurs.
Yeah, not ideal. That's for sure. All right, next one. This one's a good one. Lachlan asking, what about Tui Pilotu and Gutherson, obviously on the bye this week? They'd be definitely very popular trade-ins this week if they were playing, but are they must-haves in round 4 for the cash gen? They've both got really heavy negative break-evens. I don't know whether I'd call them a must-have, just when you've also got all the Storm guys on the bubble, all the Titans guys on the bubble as well. Like, there's going to be some options. Tino is someone I would call a round 4 must-have. I don't know whether I'd call Tui Pilotu or Gutho must-haves.
I'm saying no to a must-have purely for pure cash, and I'm saying no because you should be probably buying these guys just as assets. Storm in round 4, which is not great, but then you go into the Eels, Titans, Manly, Roosters, Tigers, Warriors, and then Broncos up in Suncorp, before the bye. Like, I'm not looking at them as cash gens. I'm probably looking at them as guys, even after that, man, like the Knights, Dolphins, Sharks, Eels, Raiders. We don't play Penrith or the Storm again until round 27.
Okay.
Dragons play the Storm in round 4, and then
Mhm.
do not play Melbourne or Penrith until round 27. They play the Sharks in 23, who are pretty good defensively, and they play the Sharks in 15. Apart from that, man, like you could buy. I'm not saying Gutho, but you could buy Tuipulotu and just have him sit there, and he could be your 2RF, or your centering like 3 or 4 by season's end.
Yeah, for sure. He's definitely playable, and we see them go left fucking every single time they score. It's going to be down the left-hand side. They saw Sloan obviously score some tries last week, but
Fullback's going to be interesting because you got Pappy playing this week. And I think if Pappy puts out another 100 against Penrith, I think this Gutho narrative probably dies because people will just go with the sexier pick, the more SuperCoach pedigree pick in Pappy. But yeah, I don't mind Gutho. He's ball playing a lot more. He's doing very similar to what we see with him without Moses at the Eels. And like, no disrespect to Flynn Aurelius, but it's almost like playing without Moses. Like they're just giving him the ball, and he's being the main instigating playmaker. So love Gutho as a pick. Ideally, I buy him in round 5, but I know with that minus break even, it's probably going to be a 750k purchase in round 5. So I don't mind going a week early and getting him for the Storm game, and just probably tempering our expectations a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Cameron, for the next one, thoughts on Brimson after his 40 against the Dogs? Would you play him in the 5'8" as a replacement for someone like Dill Brown, or would you have him at centre wing? Where does his value lie?
Eels play the Dogs at Combank, 4 o'clock on a Sunday. Like, Dill had that obstruction in the Tigers game. Take that out, he probably scores 65, 70. So he does look really threatening too. I'm not giving up on Dylan if I own him. I'm still playing Brimson. I don't really know what the team structure is. This question's a little bit vague, but I'm pretty happy to play both Brimo and Brimo. I'm pretty happy to play Brimo and Dylan. I don't know what your makeup is, but get them both scoring this week for you.
I think 5'8". Look, Adam Dewey's obviously a guy that scored pretty well over the first 2 weeks. Your other options at 5'8". I mean, if you've got Luai, you're probably going to want to get off him a little bit earlier than planned. Dylan Brown hasn't lit the world up. Matt Burton's injured. There's a bit. It's a bit of a shit show, I guess we can call it, at 5'8" this year to start the season, isn't it?
It's Munster, it's Dewey, and then that's probably it. Like, I'm just trying to have a look at let's filter by projections. Like, it's maybe Lockie Galvin. He could be a guy you look at, but I'm not really keen on Ben Hunt. The role just isn't enough for me. But yeah, it's Lockie Galvin. It's then Munster, and then you probably drop all the way down to Dewey. So
yeah,
it feels like a bit of a sideways trade to pick up a Galvin or a Munster against Melbourne for me.
Yeah, if Brimson was 100k cheaper, I'd be like, yeah, all right, I can get around that. It's just
Dill Brown. 40. He's got 40 with one line break, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Still, I'm not saying he's a bad option. I just think more so Dylan Brown, you bought him because he's going to be the guy in this team. And if the Eels get worse from here, they could get fucking relegated out of the NRL. So I think that there is every chance that you're going to get some improvement from the Browns and the Hopgoods of the world, I think, over the next fortnight.
Yeah.
All right, Lorenzo, stick with Luai or switch to Munster. I think I'd probably just go to Munster just off the back of Luai. It just looks like he's taking some time to gel at the moment. A couple of 20s back to back isn't ideal either. Galvin's getting his hands on the ball as predicted in the preseason. And do we have any other suggestions? Would you do Luai to maybe someone else other than Munster? Or is Munster just the obvious pick?
Is there any love for Galvin at all? I wasn't keen, but it looks like Luai is taking somewhat of a backward seat. 51 in arguably the worst game I've ever seen Lockie Luai. Whoa, that's a player. 51 for Lockie Galvin in arguably the worst game I've ever seen him play, and then just rips out 101. We have a decent draw. We have the Finns, the Warriors at Campbelltown, which I'm assuming you and I will both be on the hill for. The Broncos at Suncorp, the Knights, Para, and then the Sharks. We've got a pretty decent 6-week stretch there. I don't hate picking up Lockie. Apart from that, yeah, I'm
pretty
on
grim.
Munster. I'm probably expecting like a 53-pointer from Munster this week against Penrith, but then after that, like Storm will just storm. They'll just hump teams into the ground. So yeah, I'd probably rank them Munster 1, Lockie 2, and then I don't know, literally anyone else at 3. But 5'8" is so dead, man.
Sorry, it's Adam Dewey. Not Dewey. I keep getting corrected in the chat. Corey A is very passionate about Dewey. We've got to get a soundbite about Michael Jackson's he every time we talk about Adam Dewey. I've been told. Yeah. All right, James, for the next one, would you trade Preston to Tino or Turbo to Pappy to fund Payne Haas?
Turbo to Pappy to fund Payne Haas?
I don't want to trade.
Why is everyone giving up on Presto? What's the go?
Are they worried about Burton? I reckon they're probably just worried about maybe Burton out. But for me, I think the ball goes right a little bit more now.
Yeah, is that not good?
I mean, it's not good for.
That's like saying. Oh, I'm trying to think of like a prominent South right winger. Let's say, fuck, there's been so many ins and outs. Let's say Ty Munro when he's not dead. That's like saying, oh, should I trade out Ty Munro now that Cody Walker's not playing?
Yeah,
no, can we buy him?
Yeah, I think he's going to get more ball presto. The base has been good. There just hasn't been any attack apart from falling on a ball in the in goal. So that's, I think you've got to stay patient with Preston.
He has a 78 break even, right? If he does what he did last week, which is 66, he loses, goodness, not a whole lot.
Yeah, 10K max. All right, here's one. Very relevant for everybody. Blake wants to know Starling or Humphreys. I had to dissect this question because he told me his whole trade plans for the next 2 weeks. So, and this was the differentiator. So are we looking at Starling, I'm assuming via Jules? I'm assuming he's looking at moving on Duffy, or are we looking at Humphreys? And for me, I think it's Humphreys draw. That deters me. I love Humphreys as a player, and I think there's every chance he could be quality, but Tom Starling's been great. He got 70 minutes on the weekend. Looks like he's playing some time in the middle when Owen Paddy's on the field too, which is nice. Especially with now Hosking out of the team. I think there might even be a chance that he plays more minutes through the middle. I'm on Starling. What are your thoughts?
All right. If I said to you, round 27, Starling's your hooker 2, you're like, yeah, okay, sure. If I said to you, Humphreys is your halfback 2, you're like, oh, fuck me, I've had an absolute stinking season. And that's what I'm getting at. Like, I have plans on Starling being my old hook tour come season's end. I don't have plans on Humphreys. Like, I'm not buying Humphreys for a 3-week joyride. Like, I kind of want this person to last a while, which is why I'm scared I'm buying Jesse Arthurs, because this could last all of 5 minutes.
1 week. Yes.
Yeah. But like, does he get better with trail back? Does he get worse with trail back? Like, he loses the goal kicking, but like, is he going to get more attacking stats? Probably not. Like, the Latrell is not a Jai Gray who's going to take the ball at the halfback and just try and score himself. Latrell's just going to be like, I'm going to just rinse defenders and get the try assist. I'm on Starling. The stats, the pedigree's there. He averages like 68 over 60-minute games. Looks like he's probably going to get 60-minute games. I don't really understand the Raiders at the moment. Like, they've just bought Jaden Brayley.
Or ever?
Oh, just in general, but just like mainly the man that coaches them. I mean, they bought Jaden Brayley despite they've got Owen Paddy, who's supposed to be like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they've got Starling, who's always been very, very good. But I'm on the Starling train. Maybe it's a case of like Starling's gone next year, so Ricky's just going to run him into the ground.
I think that's probably exactly what it is. Absolutely. Squeeze the orange dry.
We've always said if Starling got 80 minutes, I don't know if this is a hot take, but like Starling would be better than Harry Grant from a SuperCoach standpoint. From a SuperCoach standpoint, if you got 80 minutes week in, week out.
No. Don't agree.
It'd be a lot closer than you think, I reckon.
At pure at hooker, 80 minutes at hooker, or are we talking rotating into the middle?
Oh, just 80 minutes. Like, if you say he averaged 77 minutes for the season, I reckon he's pushing like a 70 average.
Oof, okay, be cool.
I love
Hamo wants to know how many front row forwards in your 2RF is too many? And this is a pretty good question because I'm in the same boat. What world do we live in? Currently have AFB, May, and Horsburgh, and we'll be bringing in Haas this week and Tino next week, and he'll have Horse and Tino at 2RF. Is it just boring? Like, I mean, I think guys like Tino and Haas are pretty exciting this year, that we know that they can cross the stripe. We know Terrell May can find the line. We know Corey Horsburgh is quite creative in his role. Like, all of these guys are attacking threats as well. It'd be different if you're going, I'm buying Tom Gilbert, and I'm buying Stefano and like all kind of like a boring plodder front row forwards.
Literally.
Very
It's
different
not
conversation.
Terrell May, Payne Haas, and Tino are not front row forwards in terms of Supercoach. Like,
Mm.
they're not putting up low 60s in you. They're not Max King. I love Max King, but they're not him who's putting up like a low 60s or a Ruben Cotter where it's like, they're putting up like 73, 74. Payne Haas averaging 101 for fuck's sake. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just because they wear the 8 or the 10 and they've got FRF next to their name in Supercoach. Like, mate, there's genuinely a world where, like, by round 8, we have our front row of just Payne Haas, Terrell May, Tino, and Horsburgh. When was the last time we ever had, like, when was the last time we ever aimed to have 4 playable front row forwards week in, week out? Like, it's never.
2017 when you could play your hooker at front row forward and you had Robbie Farah, Cameron
literally.
Smith.
But, like, yeah, no, I'm not too worried. It's not like you've got Naf White and some other shitter like plodding along in your front row forward in your 2RF. So
Naf White,
yeah,
Aaron Clark.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not looking at them as front row forwards that are down there. I'm just looking at them as guys that probably will average 75 this season, which is like Hamoli Olakawatu, Britton Nikora, Eli Katoa numbers.
Yeah, spot on. I agree. James, thoughts on Hosking to Haas, Duffy to Humphrey, and Turbo to Pappy, and then look to upgrade 5'8" and 2RF in round 5. Obviously, we don't see your full team, but Hosking to Haas, great. Duffy to Humphreys. I mean, I'd prefer that if you could use Jules to get to Starling, and then Turbo to Pappy.
Even Memezelis if you can't afford Starling.
That too. But Turbo to Pappy, I don't love Turbo to Pappy this week just because Pappy's playing the Penrith Panthers. And if you can wait a week on Pappy and maybe even using your flex, get a guy like fucking Greg Marju or something like that. Get a center wing that's going to make you some cash. Arthur's, someone like that.
That's literally what I'm doing, man. Like, I'm planning on having Nico and Cleary next week. Do I plan on holding Nico long term? Not a fucking chance. But he's there. He's better than any other fullback that's probably not named Reece Walsh. And Reece Walsh has a 140 break even. So it's like, I'm just waiting for someone to emerge, whether it's a Gutho, whether it's a Pappy, whether it's a Walsh, whether it's fucking, I don't know, Ko Kini. Like, I'm just waiting for someone to put their hand up. I'm not going to force a trade at fullback just because, you know, we always hear, fullback. Like, we were all keen on 3 fullback 6 weeks ago because 6 weeks ago it was Ponga, it was Turbo, it was Trell. And now one of those is suspended. Oh, sorry, one of them is injured. One of them is very, very close to probably spending a stint on the sideline. And no one's really exciting me. Pappy beat up on a bunch of spuds, and we saw Jareem Buller beat up on a bunch of spuds. Am I going my way to own Jareem Buller? No. And Gutho has one leg and is putting up stats we've never seen him put up before. So I just want to wait. Like, fullback's a position where I'm happy to overpay because they're the performers, and I'm just happy to just wait for someone to take that brass ring and put their hand up. I'm happy to have some placeholders until that time comes.
Yeah, I'm doing something very similar. I don't have a fullback in my flex right now for that reason, but I will have one the week after. So it's a bit of a 1 week play so that then I can target the Gutho, the Pappy next week when they're either not on the bye or not playing the Panthers.
Interesting. My flex next week will be one and Cleary. So yeah, it's funny. It's funny how like it's the narrative shifts, and that's like the thing with Supercoach is you have to be adaptive. And I think in seasons where I've had success, I've been able to like change my plan, my plan on the fly. Years I've sort of struggled. It's been like, oh well, I need to have this structure because this structure is in my head what I thought was best.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes following the template can set you back. So, yeah, you definitely have to be adaptive throughout the season. Bane Wennett, he asked us, why do you think the opening 2 rounds have been monstrous compared to years gone by? Most round 1 scores barely pushed 950. We've seen some big 1,300-plus scores over the first 2 rounds. Thoughts on why that's happened? Do you feel like there's any significant difference in play style? Is there any tactical advantage that some teams have had, draw, preseason?
I think it's the teams that are shit. Like, I think it's as simple as that. Like, I think in recent years, good teams have struggled because the defensive teams have been better. Like, we've seen some absolute stinkers. We saw 2 50-pointers last week. We saw a high 40s, I think, this week. Like, we're seeing teams be ripped apart. And I think the dearth of talent is just really far. I think like your bottom 4 teams are your bottom 4 by a comfortable distance, and we've had some like pretty favorable matchups in that situation. Like you've got Parramatta look to be one of the worst. Parramatta and the Cowboys look to be like two of the worst two of the worst defensive teams in the comp. And you've had Melbourne, who are one of the best attacking teams, and the Sharks, who are one of the best attacking teams, play both of them. So we've just seen some absolute humpings. And yeah, like Christian Tuipulotu, good player. Should he be scoring 227 SuperCoach points across 2 weeks? Probably not. But you're right. Like in years gone by, like we have seen an uptick. You give your thoughts, and whilst you do that, I'm going to pull up a couple of my seasons in years gone by and just sort of compare where we're at in like the first 2 rounds in terms of scores.
I'd probably echo your thoughts for the most part. I think usually what we see top 4 to 6 teams to start the year. They're solid, and we know that they're going to be a top 4 to 6 team. We know that they're going to lead from the front. Even though SuperCoach points are down, it's pretty obvious who the teams are that are going to be the teams to beat in the season. This year, we've gone and seen in round 1, we've seen obviously the Panthers just narrowly beat the Sharks. Then the Panthers went and got smacked in a game, or not smacked, but they conceded 38 points. You remind me the last time the Panthers conceded 38 points. Against the Roosters, who got flogged 50-14 in round 1. Then they went out and beat the Panthers, the 4-time back-to-back premiers. And then the Broncos went out and put up one of the all-time Barry Crockers against the Raiders and lost by 10 points and conceded 32. It's really hard to look at first 2 rounds and go, yeah, these are trends. There are some very significant trends in teams like the Cowboys, teams like the Eels. I think we're also still going to see a couple of these other teams sit at the bottom of the ladder. The Dolphins also look pretty ordinary. They lost by 14 to the Knights last week. I think we're going to see them in the bottom 4. Otherwise, it's hard. I mean, maybe the Titans have a bit of a tough year, but again, we've only seen them once. So it's hard to know exactly what is going to happen from the first 2 rounds. We've seen some big jumps and big shifts, but can I answer the question of where the points have come from? Not really, aside from, really nice matchups for top teams.
Scores are massive to start the season. 2022, I finished 140th, and at the end of round 2, I was ranked 23,000th. So very similar spot to where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. In that round 1, I scored 826, and round 2, I scored 977, and that was 2022. And then 2023, the year later, I finished 1300th. And in round 2, I was ranked 40K, very similar spot to where I'm at right now. The points were 1,092 and 956. And the last 2 weeks, I scored 1309 last week, and I scored 1231 the week before, and I'm top 13% of the game after round 2. So there's been some ginormous scores. We've seen that even team of the week, man. Like team of the week for round 1 was normally like 1350. And now it's like 1550, 1560. So big scores. Maddie had a massive score last week. And Maddie doesn't even have like a crazy pod team. Like you see these teams that like do well early, it's because they're just like fucking rogue as hell. They've got 7 nuffs on the bench and they just picked a bunch of pods. Like Maddie's got a pretty well-structured team and he scored 1450 in round 1. So scoring has definitely been improving. I think it helps when you've got, Turbo scored 113 last week, and he was one of the most popular captains. He had KP score 130 this week. He was one of the most popular VC options. So it helps when your premiums are firing. I think last year was one of the first years. Remember how like none of the premiums scored well for like a month?
Yep. I felt that in my core because I'm just looking at my last year and I was 38,000th after round 7 last year. And by round 25, I hit the top 1,000. So it doesn't matter where you like. Honestly, you can take 10 rounds to get going, and if you make your move during Origin, which is usually what I do, it'll be very easy for you to finish pretty well. So I wouldn't stress about your rank too much from here. But yeah, there's definitely some trends that we can take from the first couple of rounds. The next question from Chocolate Soldiers, for those wanting to hold Turbo in flex, assuming that he's named, who is the best replacement if he's ruled out at the 24-hour cut? And who's the best replacement if he's ruled out at the 1 hour cut?
Okay. So 24-hour cuts only give us the Titans and the Knights.
Okay.
So maybe Keeney?
Yeah. If he's in your flex, you can get anyone, right?
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't
so
have
at
to
the
be
Titans, probably JC or Keeney, but like I don't love those 2 options. And then for the Eels and Dogs, like I just don't care. Like,
yeah.
I just don't want any of them.
Yeah, I'm probably not buying an Eels player at all.
What I would do, and maybe you can help me out here. If I'm set on holding Turbo, that's fine. Probably build your team this week where you don't have to play Savio Tamale.
Yeah.
Have him as your like 19th man. And then if Turbo goes tits up, then it's a pretty easy
just
like
go to Tamale.
swap around. Yeah.
That's probably the one player that sticks out for me. Yeah, that's the one player that sticks out for me is him. I think obviously you're going to free up or not even have to free up cash because for the most part he's probably in your purchase plans anyway. Another guy I'd probably look at that would likely play fullback in replacement of Tom Trbojevic and then go back to the wing would be Lehigh Hopewadi. I don't love that option because it means then you've got to spend a trade and you've got to keep a trade up your sleeve to make that move or reverse a trade. But yeah, for me, it's Tamale as a first preference. I think with the 1 hour cut at the 24-hour cut, I honestly don't love anybody aside from that final game anyway. But yeah, Lehigh Hopewadi is probably the only Manly player I'd want.
And I don't even love Lee Hopewadi because we're picking a guy for 600K that we like. Let's be honest, you and I both don't want him. As it feels like we're wasting a trade to get him in just to have a number, and then we're probably gonna have to fucking turf him in 3 or 4 weeks anyway. So it's like we're wasting 2 trades when. That's what I think. I think with Turbo, it's like you need to sit here on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night and just make up your mind. I think you need to work out, all right, I'm going to hold him and I'm going to play Tamale if he's out. Or you need to be like, I'm selling him. You don't want to be tossing and turning, especially last game of the round. Like I think you need a pretty cohesive plan. What do you think?
No, I completely agree. I'm moving him on now at the price, structuring my team the way I want it to look now as of game 1. If he plays, he plays. Too bad. I'm just going to have to cop it. It's the risk that I'm going to have to take with Turbo that there's every chance he could play. And everyone's saying he should play. The scans came back clear. So if he does play, I'll cop that. But I think that the moves that I'm going to make with the cash are more certain for me and lets me sleep at night.
Manly say he's fine, right? But why would Anthony Seibold come out and be like, "Oh, we're giving them every chance to play this week if they're not fine"? You know,
and also, do you remember how cagey Seibold was last year when Turbo was injured through the middle of the year with that back, the groin, the hammy, whatever it was? That was super cagey about that injury all the way through that period.
I was like, no, Manly say he's cool, like he'll be fine, but he just wasn't. But that's the thing that I'm thinking of. It's like Manly, of course, Manly going to say he's fine. They're not going to be like, oh, you know, the glue that holds our entire team together is fucked. But like, surely Seibold should have just come out and be like, why wouldn't he play? Yeah. And then if you're going to pull him out. But don't sit there and go, oh, you know, we're going to give him every chance to play. We're going to give him up until the last minute to play. Like, surely you just do a bit of Wayne Bennett and say, no, he's named, isn't he? Yeah, like, that's exactly what Wayne Bennett would literally say in a press conference. If Latrell Mitchell was like, exactly. If Latrell Mitchell was on an injury cloud, Bennett would have said, I've named him, haven't I?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. That's why we love Bane Wennett. Next one from Chocolate Soldiers, which is another very relevant question. What are we doing with Marju? Are we getting him now at -5 break even, knowing that there's every chance if we fade him, we're going to have to pay another probably anywhere between 60 to 100K to get him? Or do we just have to buy him now, take the cash rise and cop the round 4 buy? And I think it all comes down to structure and how many nights you have. I have Ponga and Lucas at the moment, and if I buy Marju, which was originally in my plan, I'd have 3. I'd have to play guys like Tamale and Toya next week, and I'd probably also have to play someone like a Naf White or a Sandon Smith. Yeah. So I guess you've got to weigh up who you have to play to sit Marju and the rest of your nights, or how many nights you have. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so for Patreon watchers, they know that I've sort of been tossing and turning about what to do with Marju, and I think I'm leaning on I think I'm going to fall on the sort of I will pay 80K more for a keeper. I need Cleary next week. Like that's just the be-all and end-all of my plans is I need Nathan Cleary. I can't make it work with Marzu. So therefore Marzu needs to wait. And I know who I'm prioritizing out of Marzu and Cleary. I'm also terrified because I'm very of the firm belief of data is data and variance happens. And I think Marzu was just experiencing a data slump of no tries. And if the bloke's averaging fucking 80 and he scored, one dodgy try, then, mate, what's he going to do when he scores 2 or 3? Like some of these Bradman best balls are going to go to hand. You watched him in person with me. He was wide open about 3 or 4 times. Watched him on the TV last week 2 or 3 times. He was wide open. These balls will go to hand eventually, and he will score 140. I just really hope it's not this week. And I'm going to probably look at picking him up in round 4.
Sorry, see, he's not in my trade plans at the moment for round 4. and I'm fucking nervous and might have to restructure things. Like I'm looking at guys like Tino. I'm looking at replacing a fullback. I'm looking at a couple of other options there. But like, yeah, he was in my plans originally, and I cannot blame you for getting him now. But I think it also comes at what expense are you getting him? For you, you would have had to say no to Cleary, and that's a no-brainer. For anybody else who doesn't have to say no to Cleary, and their options are potentially like, do I get Arthurs or Marju this week? Which is probably a more relevant question. Do I get Arthurs and hopefully bank 150K if he pops off again? Suncorp, the next 6 out of the 7 games for the Broncos, they've got a really nice draw. Or do I attack Marju now, knowing that I'm not going to, that he's a season keeper? It's like, do I get a season keeper that I know is going to be solid when they don't score tries? Or do I get Arthurs, who's an attacking reliant player that has a nice draw coming up, but I'm going to need to trade him eventually?
I think the thing with like Arthurs and the thing with Starling is they're not good enough for me to buy them. Well, that's a bit stupid because I said fucking Starling would average 70 if he played 80. Arthurs, I guess if Arthurs is 470K next week, I am not fucking buying him. I barely wanted to buy the guy at fucking 360. I'm not buying him anywhere near 500. Whereas Marzu, if he's doing this, I'll pay 700. I don't care. If he's putting up these kind of BP numbers, I'll pay 700. And he's a guy that I'll hold all season long. If I'm holding Jesse Arthurs all season long, he's either scored 35 tries this year, or I've stopped playing in round 7.
Mind you, he could score 35 tries this year the way that the Broncos have looked down that left. So, look, you never know. But I understand why people are going both directions. It's a very valid question. So thanks for that one. Sam, which player should I ditch? Turbo, Purdue, Hosking, or... So one has to miss out. Out of Purdue, Hosking, Duffy, or Turbo, I think you've got to move... A very similar question. Turbo, Hosking, and Duffy. And I think you just hold Purdue and just hope he falls over the line.
Sorry, hang on. So one of these players has to stay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's Purdue.
And then who do I replace them with out of Pappy, Arthurs, Haas, and Starling? I think Pappy can wait a week.
Arthurs, Haas, and Starling?
Yep. Pretty easy. What about your boy?
It doesn't feel right with that 2 fullbacks, right, brother? Tell me. I open my app up, I scroll down and see Tom Starling in the flex. I'm like, what has happened?
I've seen...
The game's gone woke.
One of your teams had Payne Haas in the flex, and I was like, fuck yeah, that looks mad. I kind of like that. It just feels wrong.
It could be anyone. It's just I think I put Payne Haas there for the vibes, but like I've just got generic player as the flex, and the game's gone woke, man. It's definitely the games are gone.
Yeah, that's right. What are your thoughts on
meme? What happened to the game I love?
Yeah, I've only seen that times in the last week. Carter Gordon, mate, what are we doing? He's just gone walkabout.
I feel like what are we, round 3? I just got to write him out now, surely.
Yeah.
Nah, he's a bit too expensive. I think you just turf him for Arthurs.
I think you have to get rid of him, especially with Tony Francis being named as the replacement for Cam Pereira. Like, obviously, he's just not on the radar, or the injury's worse than first thought, or he's not been named in Cup. So I think we can naturally assume there's an injury of some sort there. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably just bail now.
Just on Arthurs, yeah, got a pretty good bailout there.
Next one is Tamale or Arthurs. Tamale, here's the question. He was the Tamale seems like 2024 Euro comment from James. Good SC game. Could end the season as your 5th or 6th centre wing. If things go well, Arthurs are going to make more upfront cash. However, a pileless week could end in a 12. And we just kind of, I guess that echoes everything we just spoke about with Arthurs.
I don't know, man. Like, I love Tamale, but I feel like his work rate is a little bit overplayed. I'm just trying to have a look. So he scored 60 last week with a try, a line break, and 2 tackle busts, which is a 31-point play. So he scores 29 without that, and we don't have this discussion. It's very funny how one play can change. I think people look at the 12 tackle busts in round 1 and just think that's the norm. There was the Warriors played dog shit.
Yeah, they were bad.
I'm probably more like the 35-pointer for Tamale without a try, and I think Jesse Arthurs is at about 30 points without a try. And I know who has the higher upside.
I think Tamale's like from an eye test perspective, not looking at numbers, Tamale's a tackle buster. Like Tamale's a guy that can break the line one-on-one. Jesse Arthurs wouldn't be able to break a piece of paper one-on-one, I don't reckon. Like, I think you've got to also look at the team. You've got to look at the Broncos favouring left, and just, you got Reece Walsh and Ben Hunt. I tell you what, Ben Hunt has just made that left for Broncos look fucking amazing.
He's just a system player though, isn't he?
Yeah, apparently. I mean, he just turned Jaden Sewer into a fucking Queensland Origin player last year. So for me, I think it's
Okay. I want to read you. I want to read you some empty stats, and you tell me if you're happy with this score, right? So this player scored 73 points.
Mhm.
They had 2 line breaks, 1 offload, 15 hit ups, 12 tackle busts, 2 tackles. 73 feels a tad low for that stat line.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
That's Tamale in round 1.
Yeah.
I think we all get sucked into him being 198k or whatever he is. Scored 70, fantastic. I think the cash for Arthur's is just so much greater. Like, I think Arthur's in 3 weeks can be 550k. Nearly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I probably am more. I'm probably against you on this one. I'm more leaning with James. I reckon Tamale could be honestly a centre wing 5 or 6 guy by the end of the year, and a guy that you'd be happy to play by Origin. I just like his game. I think he's got a really super coach friendly game.
I don't know who I like watching more. 100%.
Yeah, and obviously we're looking at short cash grabs here. I guess in terms of Arthur's, you're going to need to trade him out. I don't think you need to trade Tamale out, if I'm completely honest.
So last year, Jesse Arthurs, in games that he didn't score a try, on the wing, went 48, 26, 37. Oh, goodness. 14, 15, 25, 45, 41, 25, 20. That averages out to be around that 33, 34 points, right? So I don't subscribe to this like Arthur's is Alex Johnson levels of rubbish without the tries. But it depends on what you do with the money, isn't it? Like, it's 150k. Like, if that's getting us a KPP for me to a Haas, and take Tamale.
You got to do it.
But if you're sitting there going, like, I can get Dimitri to Matty Nicholson. Like, I love Matty Nicholson, but it's like, I'd probably just rather fucking Arthur's at that point, wouldn't I? Yeah,
that's broad territory. The amount of times you've talked up Matty Nicholson and now you wouldn't go Dimitri up to him. I'm
not this week. Next week, absolutely. Wheels up. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, if we're just using 150k to upgrade it for the sake of upgrading it, like, would you rather, I don't know, Duffy to Humphreys and Tamale, or just get fucking Jesse Arthurs? I know what I'd rather do.
Yeah, I'll take the short-term cash grab, I think. Oh, look, and maybe I'm disconnected from this question because I started with Tamale, so I don't have this problem.
You also just had this unrivaled hatred for Jesse Arthurs.
No, not really. I like Jesse Arthurs as a person. Nothing against him personally. I just think he's a bit boring.
Matty owned him, and Matty was very smug last week, and then again this week.
Nah. Oh, honestly, he's probably coming into my team this week. I do not have any sort of bias against Matrix players. Probably a few people actually called me. No, he's not in my team. Only because I'm getting Arthurs, so I fucking can't win anyway.
It's like the rock and a hard place for you. It's like, fuck.
I can't win. I'm fucked. But I'll take the cash. I'll take the short-term cash grab. Corey A wants to know, what's our thoughts on Turbo to Dane Laurie, or would you go Sarko to Dane Laurie next week once the Finns draw gets a little bit tougher? I think I'm on the. I mean, Dane Laurie plays for Storm this week. Not the best matchup ever. And Dylan Edwards is only out for like fucking 3 to 4 weeks with that groin issue. So for me, I don't know. Do you want Dane Laurie for 3 good games, or if you're going to get Dane Laurie, I don't know why you'd bother getting him late because he's got such a short time period to actually go well.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm not getting him this week. His break even's 53, but fuck it. South Cowboys Dolphins.
Yeah, it could be nice 3 weeks. It could be.
He honestly could score 400 points in those 3 weeks.
It's just, you're going to look back to moves like this, the little 2-week plays, 3-week plays at the end of the year, and then you're going to get to round 24 and have no trades left and go, fuck, where did
what's going to happen is you're going to have fucking 3 HIAs in 3 weeks' time and 2 suspensions, and you're like, fuck, I'm stuck with him.
You know what? I'm burnt by Dane Laurie as well because I bought him last year when Edwards was out, and then Dane Laurie proceeded to get fucking knocked out in that game and then missed the next week, and I had to trade him out straight away. He played a half of football, and he was on 65 at the half, mind you, and got knocked out at like 37 minutes. I was shattered. So
Dane Laurie's a fantasy player. Buy him in fantasy.
Yeah, fair call. Lachlan wants to know, currently own Duffy, Turbo, Hosking, Hubner, and Vi Malga. How fucked am I? And this is probably my favourite question. Look, I don't think it's that bad.
This is some real Bonnie Blue world record type territory here, Lachlan. Far out. Nah, look, honestly, Hubner's fine.
Trade Hosking, trade Duffy, trade Turbo, keep Hubner, keep Valmalga. Like, you're not playing Valmalga anyway. So
But we're gonna lose money on Valmalga. You know that.
yeah, fuck, who cares? You didn't pay much for him. Like, you paid 232 and he'll get to 198.
How do you buy a 232 guy and fucking lose money? He's got a 40 break even.
I raise you one Pharmacilli from last year.
Yeah, nice.
Yes, he was no good.
Jay. Yeah, like Brandon said, you're losing 30k on demand. Oh, you're not even like if he gets 20, like you're losing fucking I don't know 13k.
One injury, and he finds a little bit more minutes.
I'm selling him because I had the luxury of doing it, but I would.
Yeah,
I think you're fine. Like Duffy,
I think when you've got,
Duffy can just be a fucking loop for now. Like you haven't invested anything into him. You've invested a bottom dollar. It's cost you 0 trades to have him in your team. Turbo frees up a whole heap of funds, so that's fine.
Hosking's price is probably
Hosking's sad,
a little bit. Yeah, I think you just have to use that money.
Hosking to Tino is fine. Like if you have to go a week early getting Tino, then absolutely fine. And Hubner, mate, I love Hubner.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy.
Just keep him, yeah, because he'll make you money when he's back. JP wants to know, are we brushing Turbo? We've spoken about this a fair bit, so we can probably pass the Turbo conversation. Currently going Turbo, Hopgood and Purdue for Starling, Haas and Arthurs. Then Pappy, Tino and Tui Pilotu for Pakes. Hang on, am I reading? Other way around. So Pakes, RTS and Seyfarth out for Pappy, Tino and Tui Pilotu the week after. Wheels fucking up for that.
Don't love selling RTS. I think it goes back to our conversation on Sunday about people wanting sexy points. Points. I can speak for non-sexy points as well because I own 7 Cobo, and they're the unsexiest of points that you'll ever get. But
wait until this weekend.
It doesn't matter if a player score. Like, don't watch the fucking games. Open your app up on a Monday, and you see that RTS has scored 70. And you're like, wheels up, 40 BP, amazing. I feel like RTS selling is just a bit of like, oh, not sexy. And same for Seyfarth. Like last week we got what we paid for with Seyfarth. That's similar to what I expected with upside. So. Don't love your moves next week, but yeah, wheels like this week. Let's have a conversation next week, JP.
Zane wants to know, do I trade out Preston to get Haas?
No.
And we're getting a fair few of these questions in the WhatsApp, aren't we? Around like, do I trade good player to get must-have player?
Better player.
Yeah.
I think you trade X player to Haas. I don't think that player is Preston. I'd rather sell Hopgood before I sell Preston. I'd rather sell, I don't know, shit center wing and move Lucas around. Like I don't want to sell Preston, man. Like nothing's happened for me to sell him.
If your team structure said that the only way that you could get Haas was to sell Preston.
If it's the only way, then like, sure. But don't cry if Presto Mania scores a double and he gets fucking 130. That's all I'm going to say. Because like, remember Presto with the trial? Everyone was like, oh, what a stud. And then shock horror, edge back rower doesn't get try every week. Extra read all about
Even
it.
Gets try every week. Still, people are disappointed with his try this week. Anyway, we'll take it.
RTS has scored 2 weeks in a row, and everyone's like,
yeah, going to move him on.
Sell him.
Yeah. Rohit in the chat. We'll get to your question at the end, mate. So just hold tight. Alex wants to know Starling or Arthurs.
I'm tossing. I've ended up just being a coward and getting both.
Just get both.
For about half a day at work, I got nothing done because I was also thinking about this. And for me, all right, Starling, if I have to pick one, because I know I can't even say no because Ricky just could bench him for any fucking stupid reason. On paper, he's less of a fucking issue in round 10 than Arthurs is.
Arthurs, you could trade him for 650k. Like if he just keeps scoring fucking tries, which isn't. I don't think it's going to happen.
He also could score nothing this week, nothing next week, and nothing the week after, and all of a sudden
there's the money gone.
He's got 140 break even, and he's 407k.
For the record, my pick is Starling out of these two. He was the first one that I brought in when I was considering both. Obviously, I'm probably going to get both or try to get both this week, depending on how I can make it work. But I think Starling is the guy that you can have at hooker too, and you just leave him there for most of the year. He's also playable on a pinch, especially if you're a Harry Grant owner and you know through Origin you're going to miss some Harry Grant time.
On a pinch. Fuck, I'm banking him into my team most weeks.
I reckon you could probably have him as your third or fourth reserve every week. That's not an issue. 100%. But yeah, you wouldn't be upset having to play him. That's for sure. No. Anthony wants to know, is it worth trading one of Azarko, Garrick or RTS out to get the Arthur's cash grab this week?
No.
Already got Tamale, already got Toya, got Shiba, got Tui Pilotu early.
I'm
and he
trading
needs the money to
Asako.
make Duffy to Starling.
I'm trading Asako next week, not for a cash grab, but to get fucking the best player in Supercoach. But I'm not doing it to get Jesse Arthurs. No disrespect to Jesse Arthurs. Asako scored 100 points last week, and the echoes of my voice are still ringing out across Lamia.
Mm-hmm.
But
so Asako also the draw for the Finns dries up after this week. So for this week, I'd probably still want to play Asako, but it gets kind of ordinary after that.
I think you got 2 more weeks of him, and then he's a sell. But I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it this week. Like he plays.
I've got the banner across it. Oops.
Oh, good stuff.
Where are they?
Good stuff. He's got.
They've got the Titans in round 5. That's fine. What I mean. You can probably get through to round 5, and then
after that, it turns to absolute poo.
Yes. All right. Where am I? Cool. Yeah, fair call. All right. James, is Turbo a must trade out?
No.
We've given our thoughts on Turbo.
No, he's not a must trade out. We're just doing it because I don't trust him. But
yeah,
like if you said to me, "Oh, I'm holding Turbo," I'm not going to be like, "Oh, why?"
No, I agree.
Like, it's fucking Tom Trbojevic, and if he's named, if he's playing, then sure.
Yeah, I'd say if he's named, you get an advantage on sellers 100%. For sure. Won't talk you out of holding, but also definitely more on the sell side than the hold. I think both of us, from what we've come to at the start. Raymond wants to know, and it's a shame that Matrix isn't here because this is the first non-Supercoach question. He really thrives on these. Favorite craft beer, XPA, IPA, or something different? I know you're not really a beer drinker. I'll answer this. I'm a bit of a pale ale guy for some reason. I don't know what it is. I'm not an IPA guy. XPA I can get around. The Bolter XPA is a beautiful drop. IPA, it's a bit hoppy for me. Something different. I'm usually drinking pale ale for the most part, I think. But yeah, Bolter, hazy Bolters, get around them. That's my choice, Raymond.
I'm a very sporadic IPA drinker. The Bolter hazy is an okay drop. If I have to have one, it's probably. Oh goodness, Bolter do one. What's the purple one? Is it just Bolter IPA?
IPA, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just
the purple's IPA.
I'm more of a commercial lager drinker. Carlton Draft,
Great Northern, Carlton Draft, yeah.
Corona, they're mine. I guess my sexuality is way more prominent if you go out drinking with me because it's a lot of Midoris, it's a lot of limoncellos. A little bit of the queer side of drinks, but if I have to have an IPA, it's probably the Bolter IPA. But yeah, you'll catch me at the local with just a commercial lager. Unfortunately, very basic, but that's just me.
That's all right. Yeah, we need Matrix to come on and answer this one. Maybe we'll get a proper answer for you in the WhatsApp, Raymond. Last question. Christian wants to know Duffy, Turbo, Hosking to Starling, Arthurs, and Haas. Look, for the most part, I think they're all fine. Then next week, RTS to Gutho, or Walsh, and then safe after Tino. Look, I think they're all pretty template in terms of what we've already spoken about on this podcast tonight. So for the most part,
I will go back to the last one. I was quickly trying to search for it wherever I could. My old man's a big IPA drinker, and if you are looking for a recommendation, my old man swears by, I think it's Sierra Nevada. It's about $70 a case. It's not cheap, but my old man absolutely swears by it. And then I guess Sierra Nevada.
Sierra Nevada mountains. Yeah, I just googled it.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
I think it's very fruity. I'm not a craft guy, but it's very fruity.
Nice. Like it. I'm a fruity beer drinker, so I can get around it for sure.
Sorry, next question. We'll give this patron back our time. Sorry.
Yes, last question from Rohit in the chat. Is it okay to hold Walsh or to get rid of him? He's probably going to have a blinder against the Cows, or can I get Haas for him?
No, I'm terrified not owning the guy. I genuinely think, if you're looking at trading... Yeah, if you need a fullback, if your flex is I don't know, Tom Starling, like some other sickos, but if you're selling Turbo and you need a fullback, mine's Walsh. I know the break even is massive, but I still think he scores the most points over the next 6 weeks out of any fullback. That's not Callum Ponga.
I agree. I think he's probably at the top of the list for me in round 4 when I look to target a fullback, because round 4-5. If we bring the draw up again very quickly, the Broncos play the Dolphins away and the Tigers at home.
Play the Roosters at home. And what the fuck did you do to them last week?
Yep. Yeah, it's that was a demolition. Then the Warriors have definitely been very hit and miss, but they've got to go to New Zealand to play them. So look, they've got some half-decent
Turbo
games.
Still scored 70 in 60 minutes, and Turbo was shit.
So Walsh is his flex. He's got He's already got KP.
Oh, no, I'm not selling. I don't really care where he is. Like,
I wouldn't trade Walsh to Haas. No, I wouldn't make that move. I think that there's massive upside for Walsh, and I think you might just have to either just cop the fact you're going to have to buy Haas at, I don't know, 80 to 100k cheaper, more expensive.
You need to remember you bought Reece Walsh. Like, we talk about sexy points. There's no one unsexier to get SuperCoach points than Reece Walsh. Like, you signed up for this, right? Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be like sympathetic. Like, when you start with Reece Walsh, like, you sort of know what you're getting yourself into, don't you?
Yes, peaks and troughs. That's for sure. You experienced nearly to the core of the trough last week, so you've just got to ride that wave because you're going to get a big score in
every game. But it seems like he always just ends up on like 90 in like the last 7 or 8 minutes.
I'd love to know what his like 10-minute split of SuperCoach points would look like, because I reckon honestly he'd have the highest like 10-minute PPM of all players.
In AFL, like there's a couple of websites that break down like, oh, what a player scored in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. Like, if you could do that in 20-minute quadrants for NRL, like Walsh's PPM in the last 20 for most games, it'd be unreal.
Yes,
especially when the Broncos are already up by 30 points. He just loves to like just fucking kick the boot in against shit teams.
Yes, absolutely, he does for sure. And he's not a guy to just back down and take it easy and cruise. Because I think the last time he tried to take a really easy, dominant tackle, he got smoked by Tarpany. So, yeah, he's never going to do that again, that's for sure. But, guys, hopefully, we've got through 34 questions there. Hopefully that helps you get your round 3 teams set just a little bit over an hour. So bear with us. We've tried to, obviously, when we come into these Q&As, we try to give our best answers and not skip over any just for the sake of it. But what we'll do next week is we'll make the questions a little bit more broad and we'll answer all of your specific trade questions inside the WhatsApp to make these a little bit easier for everybody watching. So guys, thanks for watching. If you do want to become a Patreon subscriber and you want to get your questions answered, not just in the WhatsApp, but on this show every single week, you can do that via the link in the description below. Less than $10 a month to support the show and get involved in all things insight. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back for the TLT, the weekly preview, I guess we can call it. We'll be back tomorrow live, or by the time you're watching this, Wednesday night. We'll see you then.